Jenny got called out, so she's gone out for this afternoon, but everybody else is here, and so we'll go ahead and get started. The first thing I'd like is to have Danny Ricker come up and lead us for the invocation, and then Tim Ward will lead us in the pledge.
Let us pray. Father, as always, we're thankful for our city leaders, God, as they conduct their business. And thank you for every opportunity, God, to serve you, Lord. And we give you praise and glory that your hand's on them and on our whole town, all of our city leaders, department heads. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
Amen. If you'll face the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, Danny, can you stay up here just a minute?
Did it now.
I just wanted to take a minute, and I'm going to ask you the next meeting to bring in 1 month of your activities that you do each month, because I think people will be amazed when they see what you do and when you do and what a blessing you are to our community. So please, everybody, give this young man a hand because he's awesome. Thank you. A couple things. One, did anybody notice it snowed this weekend? No, you didn't? I didn't either, because I stayed in the house for the last 3 days. But one of the things that we found, this was an unusual snow that we had, getting 11 inches in one day and falling or dropping to 2 or whatever it was. It's a hard thing to manage, the snow. But one of the things Kathy and I were talking about this weekend was, what's the plan? Which roads do we go to? How do we get to where? What's first? What's next? What's last? And those kinds of things. So I think we're going to look at that. Second thing is, a couple years ago, we made a decision to contract with the state to take care of the state roads and state routes in our town. So that's why the town was out on 11E and all the state routes to clean the roads. We did that for the main reason was that the state was coming in and mowing on the medians maybe twice a summer, and it looked terrible. So we contracted with them to take care of that, and we don't typically have snows like this. So we really don't have all of the equipment that we need. I think that's something we probably need to look at in the future. I don't know when the contract comes up, but it's something we can take a look at and see if that's the best way to do things. I also was talking with John Lovin about Depot Street and the sidewalks and the bricks down there and how they can be treated, and I would like him to come up for just a minute and kind of talk about what we talked about.
Thank you. So you asked me about the brick pavers on Depot Street. I would recommend that someone call the manufacturer of those brick pavers and say, what kind of steps does our maintenance department need to be doing for proper cleaning of getting the salts off those bricks. Those bricks are a lot stronger than the concrete that's down. They're a lot more durable than the concrete that's down. Not that anything's wrong with the concrete, just the bricks are much more dense. So therefore you don't have the same issues. I highly recommend we get the salts off these sidewalks ASAP. And those sidewalks need to be sealed as they were supposed to be done 2 years ago.
Thank you.
So, but call the manufacturer.
All right, appreciate you. Can you say something? I'd like Tim to share something here for just a second.
And Nicole Rader, probably better to speak to this than I am. Our auxiliary chief of police, Terry Rednauer, died after a lengthy illness. He's been fighting this for years. So he just had his funeral. But if we could, moment of silence for Terry, please. He gave 20-plus years to this town, basically for free. Absolutely a standout of a man. So if you would, please.
Let's give us a moment of silence for Terry. Okay, thank you. I think we'll also look to do something to honor him next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
We got some members from the leadership group. Can you stand up and introduce yourself if you're here?
I'm Tom Boyle. I'm in the class right now.
Okay, thanks and welcome. Thanks for coming. Okay, we'll move on to the next item and public comments. I think we've got Mr. Niswanger wants to come up and talk to a couple of things, so if you want to come up.
Repeat what several others have said today. Thanks to everyone that did a great job during the snowfall from Friday till today and getting the streets cleaned. It's a great job by everyone. The street department's working really well. Thanks to everyone that was involved in that. I had a question, first of all, for Pete with MTAS. I know you're back there somewhere. I got to thinking about I had the pleasure of having a phone call, as many community people did, with Pete on what we thought we should look for in a city manager. And as I went through that today, preparing for today, the question I had for him is, he had a list of metrics that was on one side, and then public comment about what we all thought as citizens would be important for the next city manager. And Pete, my question for you is, what was the balance between what the city comments were, the folks that live here for a city manager, and the metrics you used? As an example for everyone, one of those metrics was, do you have for the applicants, do you have a master's degree? How were you able to rank this? Okay. Secondly, the other thing I believe's on the agenda for today is the Roby Center. And I just wanted to add my comment that I think it's just critically important that we preserve and put back to good use the first public school building to be commissioned for that purpose in Greenville. And I will support that significantly financially. If we choose to go forward with that, I would like to be involved in that and be helpful to those in the committee that will be involved in making those decisions.
Okay. All right, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, move on to the agenda. We'll go to unfinished business, item 6.1. Actually, I'm gonna go back real quick. I don't think I did a good job of saying thank you to the Public Works Department. They spent an awful lot of time, I saw them driving around after night and after early and up and down and here and there and back and forth, and they really did work hard. So I appreciate their help, and thank you, Scott, for saying that. So now, to go to item 6.1, it's consideration to approve the minutes from the regularly scheduled meeting held on January 20th, 2026. We got those on Friday. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there any further discussion or connect changes?
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against, like sign. Motion carries. Item 7.1 is discussion and consideration of applicants for the city manager position presented by Pete Auger, MTAS Municipal Management Consultant. One of the things I'd like to clarify, we were under the understanding that the deadline was going to be at 5 o'clock on Friday, January 30th. What we found was that it was actually Saturday, January 31st. So we had one that came in on Saturday. So we need to add that to the agenda today, to add that one applicant, thank you. Do I hear a motion to?
Why would we do that? If their deadline was Saturday, why would we need a motion to do that?
Because it wasn't he wasn't listed on here. So I just want to,
On our email that we got with it. Is that what you're saying?
So sorry.
yes, correct.
Pete asked me to add this portion, the deadline to accept resumes till 5 o'clock on Friday, January 30th, so that later that evening he could send those to me, and then I could send that out to you all, along with sending out an updated packet to several people that get that email and to the local news. And then after he received the additional applicant on Saturday, he noticed that, going back to the flyer states January 31st versus the Friday, the 30th. So then, there we've got that one additional applicant.
And since it didn't get out to
That was the MTAS flyer you're talking
Yes.
about?
yes. So since it wasn't in the information that was sent out, I thought it was best that we did that. So do I hear a motion to add that last applicant?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, like sign. Motion carries. Okay, here we go.
Thank you, Your Honor, and normally that's what we do. We err on the side of abundance there when we have 2 dates out there, and normally we try not to do that, but when we do, when somebody applies and they're within that, one of the dates, we try to get them across. We had 2 more that came in, or 1 inquiry and 1 more resume that came in after that, and those weren't accepted, and you don't have those because clearly they weren't by the deadline. But with that, we have 17 applicants, and I think a wide variance of experience, education for you to look at, and I'm sure you all have looked at it. To answer the previous question, all your answers, really when I ask a lot of these questions early on when I'm interviewing you or the public, I'm looking for outliers, things that are on the outside of what everyone else said. And in this process, you were all very similar in all your answers of what you were looking for. So there weren't any outliers. Actually, there was a lot of similarities to what you all said in the individual interviews, with the department directors' interviews, with some public interviews. It was all very similar and therefore easy to come up with that job description that we did when we posted. Now's the fun part, is narrowing down the list. When you narrow down a list of employees to interview, well, first, I guess I should ask, are there any questions about the 17 applicants that you received? Okay, I'm going to try to almost go into that next section then, because I was asked, how do we narrow this down? How do we get down? And I'm going to approach and show you a tool that I use.
Thank you.
I like to keep it simple. But what I have here is, when I go through this type of process, and this goes back to years ago when I was a city manager, I try to remove any bias that I would have in selecting any position. And sometimes we have unknown bias or a blind spot in ourselves. So as I received these applicants coming in, I just numbered them as they came in. And then I went to the criteria that you set up. You had core knowledge, core abilities, and then core skills, and then some basic qualifications. So basically 16 different items. That's all down the left side of the graph. And when they came in, if they spelled it out in their resume and cover letter, combination of both, I would color that block in with green. If they might have swerved in there but really didn't pull it out that they had that skill, technique, or ability, that's where you'll see the yellow. And if they didn't cover it at all, you'll see a red block. And then as more applicants come in, I just number them and keep going down the path that way. That gives me a good visual of, are we getting quality candidates, first of all, when I'm from 30,000 feet looking at it, and you can tell most of your sheets are filled with green. But then you start, when you prioritize and say, okay, who should we be interviewing? Usually, you had 16 total criteria being utilized. You had 2 of the applicants that had 16. You had 6 that had 15, and 1 with 14. So normally in this process, if you're looking for a recommendation, I would go down the list to get to a number that's below double digits. And it's just been my experience when you interview, if you have more than double digits people you're interviewing, they start to mix, okay, who was the person that said, no matter how good a note you take, they start to blend together. That's just a lot of people to interview and keep separate. So if the council would like to interview 8 candidates, we could level it to the 16 and 15. That would give us 8 candidates. If they wanted 9, we could go down to the ones that qualified with 14, I believe it is. So that's just a way that I would recommend, one of the tools you can use. Now, you might know some of the applicants, and you might say, well, I'd like to interview this person too. They didn't make that list. That's totally up to the council. All the decisions are up to the council to make. And as challenging as it is, I think it's a good thing that you got a lot of good candidates. It definitely beats the alternative of not having a lot of good candidates. You have a lot of, like I say, you have a lot of different experiences in this group. So my ratings are all based on paper, not based on personality. And people say, well, you don't want to base on personality. Well, actually you do, because you have to work with these people. And if your personalities don't mix, you could have a challenge there. So it's about personality, it's about your values and how those two mix. And when you interview people, how they interview in public. So I don't know if that gets you enough information to ask some questions or figure out which way to go, or do we need to work through this a little bit?
Just make a comment real quick. When I sent this to city council, I sent this to them in alphabetical order, not based on the
That is even better. So it is so blind, nobody knows who's.
applicant 1, 2, 3, 4.
Exactly.
Okay.
Pete, what are the white boxes?
The white boxes, there's a couple with white boxes that I didn't find it, and it wasn't enough to be a red, and it just left me confused on whether they had that experience or not. The yellow ones were, they kind of mentioned something about having some experience, but not really touting, I can do this, I've done this.
Did you count a white, red?
do they count a white, a red? Well.
I mean, how did it go
That
into
doesn't
the
weigh in. I
scoring?
didn't use a weighted schedule on this because I was looking for more people that were homogenized into what you were looking for, so the green were the ones that really counted.
Okay.
Not necessarily negative, the positive, the people that matched on the positive. So the greens are what weighed in. The reds and the yellow really didn't play into it, other than the fact that they weren't green.
Okay.
So just to better understand the tool, so under, for example, core abilities, the second box down, ability to study municipal operations and make recommendations to city council for improvement, including technology and innovation. And you evaluated cover letters and resumes. Number 1 candidate is yellow, number 2 candidate is green, number 3 candidate is red. Can you, just so we can better understand your thought process and how you came to those determinations, can you articulate the difference between,
The green and the red.
yeah, like based off of the resumes and the cover letters, like how did you determine that for each of these candidates? I'm just curious to better understand.
Yeah, well, this is where cover letters to me are important because it fills in the blank. A lot of time resumes are just point blank, this date to this date, maybe some of the things you've done in the municipality or whatever. But in the cover letter, they said we worked with, was that where you were asking for?
For core abilities, just number
Operations,
two,
yeah.
yeah.
So green might have been, worked with city council to develop new ways to look at how we make improvement in technology and innovation. A yellow might be studied innovations when I was in college, so no real experience doing it, but they read about it, so they have something in there. Red is there was no mention or anything either in their cover letter or the resume that they had that core. So there is some subjectivity to it because I'm the one that's reading it.
Yeah.
And it's reading through my eyes.
I just didn't know if you had like a rubric of like just criteria to help you pick your color, so to speak. Just
No, and I don't use Chat GPITS or any of that. I'm an old guy. I just go through and read it and look.
In looking at the resumes, I kind of looked at them and thought these people were ones. They were the higher level, and these people were okay, and then the other ones were not. So 1, 2, and 3. If everyone did that themselves and sent that information to you, can you get an average to maybe see if our thinking and your thinking kind of matches?
Yeah. That'd be another verification tool to see that that you're all in the same boat, that, you want to interview how many, because you're going to have to decide how many you interview. And not looking at any of them, I redacted all the pertinent information, the home address and phone numbers and things like that. But you do have a couple that are out of state. And I should cover that normally when you want to interview someone from out of state, the city usually puts up some travel expenses and puts them up overnight when they come into town to do the interview or whatever process. But yes, that could be another way to check and balance to say, okay, we're looking for this, and we find, like you say, 3 tranches, and these are our top 5 or 6, or however many you want.
Anybody have any other?
Just as a follow-up to that, I mean, I like the idea of us being able to kind of give the evaluations a ranking, but I still think we need some type of a definition of what's a green, what's a red, what's a yellow. That way we're better oriented towards what we're looking for, because he may think, and I say he, Tim, may think that that's a green based off of his own lived experience and whatnot. I may think it's a yellow. Right now, we have nothing to really delineate what is green and what is yellow, what is red. I just based off of this, I don't have your lived experience. I don't have your knowledge as a previous city manager. So it would be, I think, more difficult for us as lay people, if you will, to try to determine who's most fit for each of these criteria. So is there some type of, would it be difficult for you to create some type of like a criteria based off of each of those three?
Well, and if the mayor may correct me, but what I think I heard him say is the council picked the top of their list of people they'd like to interview and just separately email them to me, and I average those out and see how if they compare to the list I came up with, which might get us to the point where we interview, but I don't know if I heard you right, Mayor. Not necessarily the green, red, yellow.
My wife says I'm very difficult to understand, so that was my intent.
We have 9 all green. In your mind, they're all green.
There's only
We
two.
have not, well, one of them's white.
Well, I
One
have,
square's white.
I have 2 of them that meet all the requirements.
Yeah, only two.
6 of them meet 15 of them.
And we have 9 all green.
No, right here, Tim. See, the 16 criteria, only 2 of them. Yeah, these 2.
We're going with this, though, right?
Stack it like that. And your totals are at the bottom.
But you do have a good number of applicants that meet most of the criteria, which is, like I say, this is a very good challenge to have versus the other way around. But then you have to start thinning the herd, for lack of a better word, of cutting down how many you want to interview. And like I say, you got a lot of good choices here.
Well, can't
I'm
make 'em-
willing to work with you and help you through this next step as much or as little as you want, because
What do you think, Mr. Tim? W?
At what point do we start checking references and backgrounds? Because we've got a lot of people who are leaving other jobs. Why are they leaving? Why they want to come here? What point do we factor that in? Start looking
well,
at that.
after the interview and you select somebody that you want to move forward, a lot of city councils think right after the interview, let's say you grow a consensus around one candidate. The next step is not to offer that person a position, it's to move them forward in the process. And that's usually when you get them to sign off on a position like this with a credit check and a background check. And then you put them through the process then. You don't do that, the negative fact-finding basically during the process.
That's not the usual process from my background. With law enforcement, we start looking for negatives from the get-go. Because if they've got something bad in their past, I don't want to interview them. I don't want to waste my time with it. If we can find that out beforehand, I'd much rather do that. Just thinking out loud.
Well, and it's totally up to the community. There are some privacy laws out there, especially depending on how you're doing your background search, like looking in social media and you find something negative and you eliminate somebody and that fact is not true. That's why I always recommend at the end, you do it and you get a signature sign off that we're going to do a background check, you're going to let us do a credit check on you. So everyone knows that but you may end up with 2 or 3 that you can't decide on, and you might do it at that time
That might
as
be
well. But with
determinant.
17, I think that's just a little,
Not disagreeing, I'm just saying that when we start narrowing our pool to talk to, I think we need to start
Right.
digging. Because otherwise, we're just wasting time.
well, I would disagree a little bit with wasting time, because through every process you learn, and you might have a number 1 candidate, and let's say they get washed out in the background or the credit check, you still have others in that pool. You say, all right, let's check the next one. Let's see if we can, we still have quality candidates you might want to offer the position to. We never reach out to candidates and tell them they're out of the running until you select somebody in the, say, after the background check. So you still have a pool to go through. And in a pool like this, you might, I mean, you might have 4 really good candidates, and you have to narrow it down and start looking for hairs. But that's where the personality comes in and how they get along with you, how they speak in public, et cetera.
To follow up with what Tim's saying, I think it would make sense to reach out and talk to these folks about our town, and we could put together something. I don't think any of us need to do it, but you could do it. And there might be some folks that they realize when there's 16,000 people in Greenville and there's a guy named Cal Doty that's mayor, I'm not coming up there. But it would also give you a chance to talk with them. If I was hiring you as a headhunter, that would be an expectation I would have, is that you have a chance to talk with them first. Some of the other things, like checking the references, I have never called a reference who was on somebody's reference list and they say, I wouldn't recognize or I wouldn't suggest you get this person. So, but
I see what you're saying.
Or you could use the FBI technique, is you call the references and you don't talk to the references. You tell me 2 other people you know that know him or her. And then they chase down those people, not the people listed on the resume. That's a lot of work.
would you feel comfortable talking to the top 9?
Sure, I can do that. But then again, it's more of a subjective, as Matt brought up, with my history and it might be able to wean 1 or 2 off just how they answer the questions or dodge a question, but that would be very subjective on my part and not part of the board discussion. I
Well,
don't want.
since you've gone this far with it, if I may, I would like for you to get with Kathy and give her, if Cal's okay with it, and give us the names where we can read again the resumes and let us know who these green boxes.
So based on your
Just-
totals
just
at the
in here.
bottom, you
Right.
get the top 9.
Right.
Based on the way you sent it to me versus, and share with them the top 9
Right.
so that they could read further.
I mean, coming from your background,
Yep.
thought what you read.
And sorry.
None of us have been through this.
Yeah.
I mean, so we're, I think we had 113 resumes when we
First time,
went
yeah.
through this to begin with, and they narrowed it down to 3,
Really?
I think so.
Something like that.
Were you
can
involved
read
in?
about it in the Green
Yeah,
Book.
were you involved in that?
No, I was not.
Was that
That's why I'm saying I'm brand new at this.
before you or?
Well, it was after me and then before me.
Okay, yeah, it does.
They could see.
Well, and just piggybacking on that or whatever, like, to your point, I mean, obviously, I trust your judgment in
No, Pete, very well.
let's not go there. Well, trust your judgment in terms of identifying, a top 5, top 9, whatever. That's fine. I need something, though, to read to understand how you came to that conclusion. Right now, I'm basing everything off of colors. So when I leave here tonight and I go back to my own life and I'm trying to evaluate this, I don't know what was running through your mind of what determined a green versus a red versus yellow. And I'm sorry, it makes sense to you, but I don't think it would make sense to me or anyone if I was to take this to the audience right now and say, hey, tell me, what do you think? Right now, we don't have anything definitive that articulates how you kind of came to these conclusions. I'd like to see kind of that thought process behind it of why these are your top 9 or your top 5. I'm not saying you have to write a dissertation for each of them, but it would just be kind of nice to have something more to base on than just this is who you thought should be included. Because you might know, you might have something that makes complete sense, but if I have questions, you might could answer them if you provide the notes.
Right. So if I provide with to Kathy, the names that go with those top 9, and you read those cover letters, and you read the resumes, and then look at the categories, the 16 categories you guys described of what you were looking for in those core development, I think the picture would be clearer. Reading it with those, knowledge of municipal budgetary processes and practices. You look at that, then you read this resume, where do they mention budget? Where do they mention finance? Where do they mention, what stands out there?
But I could do Control F in a resume and count how many times they say budget or finance. I want to know how did they articulate in their cover letter that their skill with finance or there's stuff that, again, that comes with your knowledge as a city manager and as a consultant that we're not going to have. So it would just be kind of nice to understand, how did you measure ability to evaluate situations and make decisions in a timely manner? Because how I measure that might be different from everyone else.
100%, but that's the subjectivity to any evaluation, is they might write in their cover letter that they've done forecast budgeting or implemented forecast budgeting to whatever organization they're in. Well, that tells me that they have some experience in laying out budgets into the future, and they have some fiscal knowledge of why that's important. You might not get that out of that same sentence. So there is subjectivity to the process. But if you read through if I send you the top 9 or whatever, and you read through those with that in mind, because what I do is I read the first one. When I get a new applicant in, I start with those core knowledge. And I start with the top one, knowledge of municipal budget principles and practices. Okay, and then I read it. Now, of course, by the time I get to the third one, they all start popping in my head of, okay, I read their resume and I can see where it's at. And they pop out to me, as they probably would you after you read a couple of them that, oh, wait, they mentioned budgeting. Projects, major projects was another one. Do they list major projects? And some people don't. Some people just don't have that experience. And then I guess the easier ones are at the end, the qualifications, bachelor's degree, et cetera, master's degree, preferred. Either they have a master's or they don't.
Part of the reason we bring in a consultant is because we're trying to use their knowledge to help us make decisions. So I think my opinion, I don't get a vote, is if we are able to look at the candidates and their scores with Pete's providing to what we think, and if it basically matches, then we're kind of good. If one of them's, goodness gracious, this person doesn't have any of these things in my mind, or they've only got half of them, then that could create an additional discussion. But I don't think we've got the time or ability to basically be taught completely on how to do this whole subject. If we were going to do that, we wouldn't have to have him. So that's what I think.
Well, and if you have questions as you go through, you say, I read this resume twice and I can't figure out why this person didn't get credit for that. I see it, it's right here, I can answer those questions when you have individual questions as well.
Okay. Is there do we need to make a motion on that? Okay. Parliamentarian, if we just asking him for the names, do we need any kind of,
This is just a discussion.
No, you're not making a formal decision.
Okay,
I've got your list here of your top 9 based on the scores here at the bottom. So I'll just compare that with the names with you to confirm before I share it with them. And then-
Right, and I'll go back and look at them, and then, like I say, if anyone has any questions after that, after they get the names to it, and they read over the resume, and they, either positive or negative of, why was that box filled in that way, I'll be happy to go through it, and might convince me I'm stupid. Wouldn't be the first person.
okay. All right, thank you. One other thing I'd like to ask everyone to think about a Saturday where we might can get together once we get all these names, probably over the next 3 to 4 weeks to do the interviews.
Again.
They were blended with a lot of the answers, like you answered, were either already given by directors. Already covered. There were no standouts that were home that drew attention. Everyone was pretty much in the same boat. There were no big variances.
I still not get.
I would say all of them. Okay. To answer that, because not only are you a member of the community, but they're a member of the community, and some of the department directors. So all that information. Okay. And like I say, there was no, which is good, because sometimes you go into a community and you have some conflict. Up a little bit and dig down. There were none. Everyone's pretty much looking for.
Thank you, Pete. Above and beyond. Item 7.3 is public hearing and consideration of an ordinance on second and final reading to amend the fiscal year 2026 budget. Laura, you want to cover that?
There were no changes from the first reading on the ordinance. Do anybody have any specific questions? We did reach out to the insurance company. We're waiting to hear on the library roof. We're waiting to hear back from an adjuster to come out. They've been in communication with Aaron Evans, the director.
Okay.
I know we had the discussion, but I don't know if it's something we even.
I don't think so, since we didn't set a time or a date. It was just kind of a part of the, thank you. All right, well, we had voted on this our last meeting, and this is the second reading. It is a public hearing. Do we have anybody that would like to speak? Okay.
If not, I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion to approve. Do I hear a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against, like sign. Motion carries. Item 7.4 is consideration to approve the purchase of a cardiac monitor for the Greenville Fire Department. Are you going to talk about that, Eric? I don't want to embarrass you, but I think there was a pretty big thing that happened over the last couple of days, part of your private life.
Oh, well, that's really not private life. That's kind of semi-public, I guess, so.
Good thing we got the news rolling back there. Live at 6 o'clock. It's just in.
Yes, we're very fortunate on that regard, so thank you for recognizing that.
Thank you for all you've done in our community.
You surprised me. I was like, where's this going?
What? I'm sorry, I apologize.
You got Bobby fired up. I thought he was going to have something to talk about.
That pin was just a whipping over there.
Yeah. All right. All right.
Okay,
so-
let's get back in.
All right, back to regular here. So yes, part of the budget amendment was to allocate funds to purchase we've been buying the reconditioned LifePak 15 cardiac monitors to replace our current ones, which are no longer supported by Philips Healthcare. They were purchased, I think, in 2011, somewhere in that range. There's no more software support or anything like that. EMS has already completely switched to these monitors, and we're slowly trying to get our fleet of monitors up to that standard, be all the same. So
How many we gotten?
this will allow us to put, this monitor will allow us to have the LifePak 15s on all of our frontline apparatus, with the exception of the 100-foot ladder truck, which normally doesn't respond on medical calls. So
Good. Okay, do I hear a motion to approve?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you,
all.
Eric. Item 7.5 is consideration to approve the ad hoc committee to move forward with formal planning for the Roby Auditorium with David Wright as the design architect.
We all know that yesterday was Groundhog Day and the groundhog saw his shadow. I also looked at my shadow, and I've got 6 more weeks of extreme dieting ahead of me. So too many Christmas cookies and baked goods. So probably be on an ill mood for the next 6 weeks. So again, I'm here addressing the board as my role right now in the ad hoc committee. Todd had asked me before he left if I would serve on that committee, which I have, and right now we're still in a search mode only to try to come up with a good budget on what this project's going to cost. I've talked with the state fire marshal. I've also talked with Bert's office, and the state fire marshal eventually will want to see a complete set of documents. They're looking at life safety, they're looking at ADA issues. So I know that's, as this ad hoc committee transcends to a project, hopefully, you will probably want to go into the RFQ mode and want to select a permanent architect who will, at that time, prepare the necessary plans that will be reviewed by the state fire marshal's office, Bert's office, as well as David Weems' office. So right now, again, we're in the mode of trying to come up with a good budget on what this scope of works is going to cost. So right now, we cannot do any construction at all until those plans are approved, short of doing some maintenance items, maybe getting some electric there in the building so that engineers and architects can look at the existing situations to develop that scope of work and a cost estimate. So that's kind of where we're at. And again, I know this is an ad hoc committee, but right now we're still in a search mode. So that's where we're at.
So when you made a comment about needing drawings to let the fire marshal make decisions, are you saying you're going to do that to get to them as right now, or
No,
are you just going to keep talking or just checking?
Yeah, we're just trying to build the scope of work and a cost estimate. And again, based on the city's standard policy of issuing RFQs that other architects may want to submit proposals on doing that work, but mine is just as an ad hoc kind of representative based on Todd's asking me to do that, and also I kind of like the building. It's kind of a neat building. I guess Scott had reiterated there as well. It's a primary building there. I think needs to be preserved in its totality, and hopefully I know you've got a pecking order with other buildings. I mean we've got to address George Clem. I don't know what's going to happen with the building that the Boys and Girls Club is in right now, and so I know we just got to kind of get in the pecking order some way. So again, we're just trying to dot the i's and cross the t's and arrive at a good budget figure there that we can present to the council.
I'd like to throw something out if I could, Mayor. Instead of them coming back to us every meeting to do this, get a price for this, let them in the building for that, is there a way maybe we can talk to our city lawyer and maybe do a lease for this committee? 99-year lease like we do the Boys and Girls Club down at the neighborhood gym? Could we do something like that to where they wouldn't have to come back to the city for? And I don't know if you'd have to do an RFQ, if that would help, you know, if we would. And I may be way off
Yeah.
base, but I'm just thinking to make this a lot easier.
Well, that would be good to maybe kind of cut to the chase.
That's what I'm
so to
saying.
speak,
I mean, you could get a couple of sprinkler guys in there. I know you could, without going through all this.
Well, we do have to go to the state fire
I
marshal.
understand that. But what I'm saying, to get a ballpark price
oh,
that he
yeah.
was talking about 2 weeks
Yes.
ago.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do.
It'd be a lot
Yeah.
easier if it wasn't in the city. I mean, take over the insurance or whatever on the building away from the city. We'll just do a long-term lease on it.
Let's talk with our attorney and see. I don't know. I certainly would want to explore that.
Yeah, it's, the buildings, I was really surprised that the buildings is in good a shape as it is. I mean, there's no leaks. It's basically just been unused for many years. And, it's got a lot of potential. Again, I don't know what the future's is gonna be for the Roby Adult Center. I don't know whether they'll stay or whether they'll go somewhere else. But again, I know that's in your agenda somewhere, so. but-
It's the old saying, it only takes money. But we
Yeah,
have
that's-
so
that's
many
right.
things backed up right now.
Yeah,
Yes.
Add another one to the city budget.
exactly.
I'm just saying, let's let these fine people that are wanting to do something with the Haverstick Auditorium
Yes.
and let it happen instead of the building just keep sitting there.
Well, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry. No, sorry, if you go ahead and finish.
I'm finished.
I was just going to say, I want to make sure we set the record straight because it's been brought up to me, this feeling that, this project might be trying to jump ahead of others or might be perceived as jumping ahead. And if you go back and look at the report, I don't believe that that's the case. This is a project that was never completed in 2004. And so for years, 20 plus years, a commonly sanctioned narrative was that it was too far gone, and we know that's not the case. So I don't want it to be perceived that this is all of a sudden being brought up and trying to jump in front of other projects. It's more so finishing something that was never completed in 2004. And so the community members that are on the ad hoc committee right now are dedicated to getting the information necessary and exploring the potential opportunities to where it might not cost the town, a huge amount of money if we can organize ourselves and get ourselves in a position to potentially write grants, to potentially seek outside funding, but we can't do any of that until we, get ourselves organized and we get the necessary data points that Dave is suggesting. So that's kind of the point of bringing this agenda item up, is allowing us to get the necessary evaluations, allow us to continue the exploration phase and look at potential, because if you go back to the report, we wanted to form a strategic partnership for that, for the Roby Auditorium that would involve multiple stakeholders to where maybe we could eventually look at your idea of a 99-year lease down the road, if that's something that we wanted to look at again with that conglomeration of stakeholders. But right now, we just need to get all the data points in order, and that's what we're asking to do, is to formalize the committee to where we can do that investigative research and get the data points that Dave has mentioned, and then make a decision. Is it something we want to tackle right away because there's a grant out there that could catapult it? Is it something that we, probably can't get to in the next 5, 10, maybe later, years? Or is it something that we get through all of the data points? Is it something that we can even do at all? But we can't answer that question at this point. So that's kind of what we're trying to do, trying to be proactive rather than just reactive, but it's not jumping ahead of other projects. I just want to make sure that narrative is not being spread. This is something that was never finished in 2004.
And I'd like the ideal of exploring that with city attorney plus with PEP, because PEP sees that building as one, not as two. So that would be, that could be a little issue when it comes to, if you got down to the point of a lease, how they see it as
I
one
think a
unit.
firewall would have to be constructed. If
Yeah.
not, I think there's
Well, there is one, and
a so-so firewall.
I think we were still working, yeah,
Penetrations.
we were working for Von and Melton at that time.
Right.
And I worked with the city, and we just basically put a Band-Aid on that, and we put a fire petition in there, a 2-hour fire petition. That's why Roby is still, or the adult center is still able to operate, and there was nothing done on the auditorium side, so there's a distinct 2-hour fire petition in that
On
building right
doors,
now.
not a wall.
Yeah, it's
Well, there's
fire petition
penetrations
wall,
to the
yeah.
wall, which is not a
yeah.
firewall.
Yeah,
But that could be
Yes.
remedied, I think.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Especially with PEP.
yeah.
I think we could cover that. And
Yes.
I just think it'd be something good to look into. And that way they wouldn't have to come back to us for like RFQs. If they wanted to use Dave, they could use Dave right now and let him get prices for sprinkler systems or whatever without the restrictions that the city has. I don't know what advantages that remain in the city's hands it would be for.
No, she'd asked me a question.
I don't know if there would be any advantages for us to retain the property. I mean, we would, but I mean, in a lease like we do with the Boys and Girls Club. And do we have leases with other ones, Kathy?
They're
Is it-
agreements, basically. Well,
Agreements,
that's
okay.
one of the things too that PEP said that we're going to have to do is have official agreements with each of the entities that are in all town facilities. For example, I know Boys and Girls Club is planning to move out to their new location soon, but in the meantime, we do need to work on facility use agreements with Boys and Girls Club, the Greenville Green County Museum, Main Street, and then, as you can see, next on the agenda is a facility use agreement with George Clem for Head Start to use the space that they've been using at this point in time. So that has been,
Andrew Johnson has some type of agreement?
so that's
with-
the
with
Greenville
this-
Green County Museum and Main Street and the Credit Union currently occupy that space. And so that's another thing that they suggested to us recently, that we need official agreements in place and insurance to cover that. General
And I never
liability.
dreamed that you were trying to jump in front of anything. I mean, it's all.
No, and that wasn't a slot towards you. That has just been a
I'm not gonna
perception,
force
so.
taxpayers to take on something else when they got all that done. And I've not heard that, what you said, but I hope people don't think that that's.
We just want to do our due diligence and do our research.
And I think the Haberstick Auditorium was basically, for a better word, walked away from when all the energy went into the Capitol Theater. Let's redo it.
I think you're right,
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it
Yeah.
was. That's what I remember.
yeah.
So,
Okay, well, do we need to vote on, or about, talking about the lease and some other activities, or you want to just work on that and bring it into our next meeting?
what was in front of us here?
I think just that Dave was going to be.
RFQ, putting out an RFQ, or Dave, what do you suggest? I know Laura's going to say we're going to have to put RFQs out if you want to further.
So you didn't say
prices.
that that's where you're at yet.
Well, I'm going to be greedy. I want to be the architect, but, again. I
You
know
are
that-
the architect.
Well, and I know that
You're
the
the man,
city,
Dave.
yeah, I know the city goes through, the different policies. So, but again, just me as a member of the ad hoc committee, we're trying to just gather the information as best we can so we can bring those numbers back to the city to take a look at.
Kathy's got something she wants to share we talked about today.
Yeah, so I've been doing a little research on that to have you be the designated architect for that. And I was looking at the Town of Greenville purchasing policy, which is our local policy that we follow, versus TCA. So I referenced TCA 124107 for contracts for professional services. Historically, the town has followed section A, B, and C of that particular code, which basically says we do an RFQ, which you're familiar with, Dave, and then a committee reviews it, and then we bring it in front of city council, and then they select a person. And at that point in time, if you were the selected one, then there's a contract worked out between you and the town, and then that allows you to go and reach out to structural engineer, electrical engineer, whoever,
Yes.
to get kind of an ideal, and then those costs come to you, because that's built into your contract with the
Right.
town. Now, I will say, in TCA Section D of 124107, it does allow the city, if you have a satisfactory existing working relationship with an architect, Dave Wright, that you basically could exercise without doing the other sections, which is historically what we've done, the committee, doing an RFQ and doing the committee and then bringing it in front of city council. The only concern I shall bring up is that TCA is good to follow, but your local policies, if you have a local purchasing policy that is stricter, then you typically go through the stricter process, which is why we've normally used A, B, and C, which is the services shall be procured using the RFQ procurement method. So, could you allow Dave to be that person, since you have a satisfactory existing working relationship? If you all, city council, so choose to do that, you could. But then I suggest to you, that's not been our standard practice because of our stricter local procurement policy. So if you did allow that today, then I would suggest maybe looking at changing the town of Greenville purchasing policy. I'll let Laura speak to this too, to confirm if I'm saying this correctly. If you went ahead today and chose Dave as the design architect based on that section D, I think if it was in our meeting minutes today, do you not agree, Laura? If they documented in that meeting minutes, it might suffice possibly our audit.
I
But-
think we should rewrite the policy before we make a decision like that and vote on that.
So maybe we'll wait on
Anybody
that.
have any, can you work on that and have it ready for next week or next meeting?
We might need, if we're going to revise the town of Greenville purchasing policy, we might need to do some
You said
discussion.
it's basically the same except for D.
I just looked at D because that's what we were talking about when it was referencing contracts for professional services.
So we can go against our ordinance if we vote on it.
So, again, to Kathy's point, our policy says we shall, the language is we shall do an RFQ. So that's why I say that, we need to do that to procure one. State statute takes that a leg further. So if the city council wants to go that direction and appoint Dave, I would just record it that way in the minutes.
Can we,
And then if we need to adjust our purchasing policy, I think that's something we could do down the road.
okay. Well, I guess the recommendation is for Dave to be the architect for the Roby. Are y'all happy with that? Okay. Do I hear a
Where's
motion?
Dave's bills gonna be sent?
Not from us.
That complicates things
Let me
in my
ask
mind.
Matt.
So I really don't
And
understand
that,
what we're looking.
and that's a part to it too. If you all approve Dave as the design architect, which references section D of that TCA for this one time, under these circumstances, then Dave would normally negotiate a contract with the town for X amount of price. The question is, who's going to pay for that then? Because from the city council standpoint last time, I don't know that was,
Well, and we've
And
got the
city
same
council
issue.
just hired him.
I'm sorry.
And the city council just hired him. So of course he'd send him to the city.
I guess we had the thing with the Harmony Cemetery that's kind of very similar by choosing
And
But
we
we-
went through the RFQ program.
But we chose it for the Harmony Group. So we've kind of done it that way one time.
But there was
with
no
an
charge.
RFQ.
There was no, so referencing the Old Harmony Cemetery, that went through the RFQ process, which is our standard process that we've used thus far. And then that firm was chosen, and then from my understanding, Christina, that firm is being covered by another entity to pay those costs.
Covered by the Greene County Heritage Trust, which they've already voted to do, or the grant that we get would cover that. So it's no town money involved in that. So I guess that's just the decision that would need to be made on this, is if Dave's getting a fee or not getting a fee, then that would need to be determined.
I'd help with that diet.
Really? Yeah. You might not go, you might be able to go out.
Well, and another example is the Pocket Park. So when the Pocket Park, there was RFQs were sent out, and there was 3 firms that responded back. 1 withdrew, 2 were left, and Dave was the one that was chosen for that. And at that point in time, the town negotiated a contract with Dave. He presented a contract and at a set price, and then you then went out and got advice from a structural, electrical, plumbing, and that was built into your fee.
You know, I don't mind at all still working in the ad hoc kind of role, because again, we're just trying to gather the information and then bring that back with a more concentrated budget, what this is going to cost. And right now, we're not, you know, I'm not doing a whole lot of drawings at all. I've done some preliminary drawings that I've communicated with with the state fire marshal on, and also Bert. And but you know, nothing to the extent that we can actually put anything out to bid, so to speak. This is just preliminary information and just a fact gathering process right now to see what it's going to cost to heat and cool it, put the electrical in, get the ADA issues addressed, and life safety, which is first and foremost. So right now, that's that's what we're looking at right now. So nothing as far as any kind of fees or drawings. It's basically pro bono kind of stuff.
Okay, well, if you're just going to be looking at the building and trying to decide what you want to do next,
Yeah.
I don't think, okay.
There's nothing for us to do.
No. I do think that since we've got 2 projects that are going on with public-private partnerships, possibly, we need to address that some way. Even if it's the private group funding all of the public work, we need to somehow to define how that works.
And that's part of what, when we say formalize this committee, we want to do that work and formalize, if it is with, for example, Greene County Heritage Trust, formalize and say, do you want to, you know, go forward even more with this endeavor or not? But we're trying, I think there might be the misunderstanding. We want to just make sure that we're just recognized formally as a committee to do this research, to do this work. So that's what we're asking for here.
Well, I don't think the city council has to approve that, do we?
Well, yes, yeah, I mean, that's the whole reason we're here. If we didn't need that approval, it wouldn't have been on the agenda, and this wouldn't be the second time it's been on the agenda.
I'm not understanding why you need that approval, I guess. I understand.
Kathy and Laura can speak to that.
I would just say it's just simply because it's a town facility.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the short answer. It's a town facility, so decisions to use and improve and research and all that, anything related to town facilities, decisions about those and how that works comes back to the city council.
I'll make the motion that they can form their committee, their ad hoc committee. That's
Second.
what we need to
We have
do.
a motion,
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against, like sign. Okay, go forward.
Hallelujah.
Item 7.6 is consideration to approve agreement with Upper East Tennessee Human Development Agency allowing Head Start to utilize a portion of the George Clem facility for operation and programming. Since we took over the George Clem building, they have a commitment till,
They did. So when the city schools occupied the space at the George Clem facility, Head Start, Upper East Tennessee Human Development Agency, had an agreement with the school system. It was an extended 10-year agreement with them to stay in that space, and the city schools provided some services for them. It's basically maintenance for the most part and food. And when the city schools moved out, that agreement ended. And so Head Start and I met, Josh and I met, and there's a few others from Upper East Tennessee and I met. And I said, we've got to formalize an agreement for you all to continue in that space. And we were upfront and honest about it. We do not know. The George Clem does have a steering committee, and they are looking and exploring options to bring to city council as to what they would like that facility to be. It's in the early phases of that. They do not have a firm plan in place to bring to city council at this point in time. So I said with Head Start, this would probably be better instead of committing to the 10-year agreement, that we need to have an annual agreement with George Clem moving forward at this point in time. So with this agreement, basically they're going to continue to use the space that they have, which if Christina pulls up, there's an Exhibit A, which is basically a map that Josh provided me that highlights the section that Head Start will use. And it is, when you walk into the George Clem facility, it's to the far right. They basically have some double doors that lead down a hallway, and on the hallway there's a girls' bathroom and a boys' bathroom that the students use, but they're escorted in there with a staff member, an employee. And then they go through these double doors, and they can either go down the ramp or the stairwell. And then there's an office space on the left and the right, and then a classroom that serves 15 students. And then on the opposite side, it says cafeteria. That's really a space that they have their lunch, their food, which is brought in. They have a separate contract with Greenville City Schools, and they deliver their food, so that would not be any kind of expectation of us as a municipality. And then that is also used / an indoor play space in case they cannot use the front playground that Head Start put in a couple years ago, and then an additional office space. So the main thing to point is they would still be using their designated area. In the meantime, if for some reason the town decided to let another facility or another organization use other portions of that building until things are finalized, that community space, which is the hallway, parking, the bathrooms, then those would be used by other people besides Head Start. So that pretty much sums it up, but we're taking this year by year just to see from this point forward as this committee is still exploring options for what that building could become per your approval.
If I may add, Kathy, I know we had talked about, I know right now George Clem's kind of up in the air, what they want to do with it. There's a long list of items that are looking to be funded. I know George Clem's not even really on the agenda at this point. We have been in the space for a very long time. I will say we have an agreement with the Greenville school systems. Right now, we're actually in every elementary school that they have. We have a Head Start program. They all service 3 to 4-year-olds, and really the big thing about George Clem is it's solely focused on the 3-year-olds. So I know for a short period of time, the city schools, after they do their enrollment, they'll have a short period where they'll try to get a few 3-year-olds in. But for most people, trying to get 4-year-olds ready for kindergarten is the main priority. So sometimes the 3-year-olds kind of get left out a little bit in our area. So that really is the main focus of George Clem, is to get these 3-year-olds in, and it's solely focused on the 3-year-olds. So it's the only one in the area. Like I said, Head Start is a program for low-income families, so there's no charge for the kids to go there. We do provide services as far as screenings to try to get them in if there's any issues with like health, speech, dental, things like that. They don't have to pay for it, so it's a really good program. We are looking to retain the space if possible. We don't expect, as far as like major maintenance, anything like that. For the most part, I'm the operations manager, so we actually handle most of our maintenance. We're not looking for people to come in and replace light bulbs, do things like that. Try to take care of it as much as we can ourselves. Like you said, the area there is really nice because when you come in, it's kind of sealed off by itself. The doors do lock, so it keeps the kids safe. So it's really been a perfect area for us in the building. We try to improve also whatever we can as far as the space that we're in. We don't ask for people to come in and do renovations. I don't know if any of you all have been by the George Clem School, but there's a brand-new playground out front at the bottom of the hill. And we put that in. So, and it's not just for us. We don't lock the gates, things like that. We want people to bring their kids and play on the playground. So it is more of a community playground. So we do try to bring that aspect of community everywhere we go. But as far as why I'm here, we're just kind of looking at, like Kathy said, more of just a yearly lease. You know, we don't expect 10 years, but we do enjoy the space, like the space. It works out really well for us. So whatever we can continue to keep would be really nice.
So we're just being asked to honor the agreement that we had
With the
with the city
ex-
schools.
Well, it's got some exceptions in there because we're not going to help provide nutrition that city schools had. We are basically providing, they're providing their own insurance coverage. We've got insurance on the building too, but they've got their own separate insurance. But they are basically, we're providing heating and air and utilities. They're cleaning those restrooms right now and supplying those restrooms. We're maintaining them. So right now, all the utilities that once were paid for by the city schools are being paid for by the town under Parks and Rec's budget back there. Thank you, Butch.
Thanks, Butch.
And if there is a minor like toilet leak or something like that, they have reached out for the Parks and Rec guys to go fix that. But at this point in time, it's very minor, and Josh is their maintenance guy. He serves all of them, so he gets to them when he can. He's not on site on a day-to-day basis, but there's no significant, in the agreement too, it basically says we'll share those common areas outside of his designated space. And like you mentioned, there's no significant renovations. If they wanted to make some changes, they would have to come back before you all and get your permission to do so, which nothing has been really done other than just some general upkeep.
Kathy, have you ran this by the George Clem Steering Committee to at least get their input? I know there's been some thoughts and feelings on decisions being made without their input, and have you at least
So I did
checked
reach
with them?
out to a few of the folks that serve on that committee the other day to let them know. I didn't reach out to all of them, but I did reach out to a few of them because I wanted them to be aware that if this came up on the agenda today, that this was what this was. It's nothing more than what it has been, and it's just until, year by year, because if something else happens with the building, then they know that. And so I was very upfront and clear with Josh to say, we don't know what this building's going to be in the future, but we can take this on a year-to-year basis. So I'll bring this back again to you June 30th, and then every year at that point forward until we know where this is
I'll
going.
make a motion, we let Head Start use the facility.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against, like sign. Motion carries. Thanks, Josh. We hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now I'd like to call to order the Beer Board special called meeting. Is there any public comments? Christina? Okay. First, unfinished business, consideration to approve the minutes of the special call meeting held on January 6, 2026. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against, like sign. Motion carries. New business, consideration